True North, and welcome to World Refugee Day. I'm curious, what have you done to land a job before? I'm guessing many of you have updated LinkedIn, you've probably performed a search, clicked apply. A few have hustled harder, some have maybe got a new degree, posted a billboard, made a long-distance move. I'm sure there's even a few masochists out there who have started a company just to give themselves the right role. I'd like to tell you today how Mohammed landed his job on our team at Bonfire. Mohammed's story starts, like many software developers, hacking on his family's computer as a child. By the high school graduation, Mohammed was top ranked amongst high school students in Homs, Syria. From there, he went to university at Al-Bath University while running a side hustle, bringing a local bookstore online. All of this shattered in 2011. As a rocket slammed into a building while Mohammed was writing an exam with his classmates. Back home, he could hear gunfire in the nearby Clock Tower Square. Syria's civil war radically narrowed Mohammed's focus. It was all about survival with his family. So they fled to neighboring Lebanon, where they found refuge with an aunt. As about 1.5 million Syrian refugees flooded this neighboring country of about 4.5 million, populist politics led to laws that denied most refugees most government benefits, such as public schooling. It even prohibited holding any jobs other than farm and construction labor. So Mohammed worked illegally as a software developer, paid under the table at half the market rate. Every day on his way to work, Mohammed would pass under a banner that read in Arabic, "Hey Syrians, the hand that reaches for our jobs will be cut off." For 8 years, Mohammed lived with his extended family in a 2-bedroom apartment, barely scraping by enough to survive. Where could they go from there? So Mohammed's story fits within a larger global context. And today being World Refugee Day, some of these numbers have already been updated today. There are now closer to 26 million refugees worldwide. These are people who have been displaced by conflict and have nowhere permanent to settle. And this is the global refugee crisis. It's the focus of humanitarian resettlement efforts, such as Canada's welcome of 40,000 Syrian refugees since 2015, and the great work of partners like Reception House. We have so much to celebrate about our welcome of refugees in Canada. Only 1%, actually less than 1% now, of refugees are settled worldwide each year, and that number is dropping. The US now takes fewer refugees than Canada worldwide each year. So clearly much more needs to be done to rise to this challenge. I'd like to remind us of another reality that many of us know very well. Finding the best talent is really hard. Canada's tech sector is now larger than forestry, mining, oil, and gas. Finding the top talent is one of the biggest and hardest challenges that most of us have that are building teams in tech. In Waterloo Region alone, we routinely have more than 2,000 open tech roles. And just qualitatively, as I talk to local leaders, all of us agree we felt it. Those key roles are harder to fill this year than they were a year ago. As a country, we've developed these large and open economic immigration systems to address our skills shortages. By 2035, we're going to need about 350,000 immigrants to choose to live in Canada each year to fill skills gaps. What if humanitarian settlement wasn't the only pathway for a refugee into Canada? This is the nuance that you have to catch, is refugees are ineligible for most of those traditional economic immigration streams. But what if just a portion of our economic immigration came from refugee populations? Then we could unlock a hidden talent pool and greatly multiply our impact? Could we have the creativity and ingenuity to develop new pathways? That's exactly what Talent Beyond Boundaries, a Washington, D.C.-based NGO, has set out to do. Mohammed first discovered Talent Beyond Boundaries through a targeted Facebook ad. You see, Talent Beyond Boundaries has this long thesis, and they've been trying to identify the talent. So far, they've identified about 10,000 skilled refugees living in places like Lebanon and Jordan. And so Mohammed saw this ad, took a chance, and applied. And over the next 3 years, TBB prepared Mohammed for international placement, from language learning to interview skills. When Bonfire began the process last year, it didn't faze us that this had never been done before. Again, this is hiring a refugee before they're resettled. Bonfire's mission is to reinvent procurement to better our world. So we know a thing or two about tackling systems that most people think will never change. So when Corey Flatt, Bonfire's CEO, heard this idea, he thought about it for a second and said, we should do that. So after shortlisting candidates from TBB's talent catalog, we began doing interviews over Skype. And Mohammed was a star throughout the process. It was his performance on the technical assignment that cinched the deal. As our team reviewed his code and started to discuss it with him, he was only too happy to discuss the relative merits of his approach of using a Node server to sync data to Algolius to support full-text search and other shop talk that just quickly erased any language and cultural barriers that might have existed. After offering Mohammed the job, we began expectantly waiting with him. TBB kicked into high gear, coordinating everything from pro bono lawyers working on Mohammed's immigration. And we began sharing videos from our office. Each milestone that Mohammed passed, we celebrated as a team. Another nonprofit arranged for the donation of air miles to cover his flight. And I've got to tell you, when Mohammed walked through the gate at Toronto Pearson to be welcomed by people who had played various roles in his arrival, oh, there was so much joy amongst that group and so much to celebrate. Of course, actually, it's worth repeating. This is my one point I want to get across, that resettling a refugee directly into employment had not been done before. Mohammed is the first refugee to come to Canada on an economic pathway, and he was almost the first in the world. Australia beat us to it by about 3 or 4 weeks with another TBB candidate. Now that this trail has been blazed, we expect that new candidates can be resettled in around 6 months. Of course, all of this was so that Mohammed could join our team. Something he was so eager to do, he started coming into the office the day after he arrived, a week before his official start. So while teammates took turns driving Mohammed to go and see apartments, he dove into our tech stack, gearing up because he wanted to start committing code. We're ready to do this again. As part of our talent strategy and recruiting strategy, we see high value in sourcing from displaced tech talent. This is both a way that we at Bonfire engage in the world and also choose our best team composition, skills, and culture. We know we'll be looking for more great developers in 2020, so starting the process now queues up a few of those hires for us. Mohammed's story has rightly generated a lot of interest. At first, we turned down media requests, not wanting to turn something we did on its own merits into PR. And then the UN High Commission on Refugees sent 2 people, and they sat us down, and they convinced us to share our story to inspire wider impact. So Mohammed and I started doing these interviews, and as Mohammed and I did these interviews, our message grew sharper and bolder. You see, while there are these global trends that I've talked about at play, Waterloo Region is uniquely suited to play a leading role in this innovative form of hiring. In fact, we believe we could be the world capital for displaced tech talent. Think about that. In all the world, we are the place where this could happen. We live in the country that has the immigration pathway. We live in a region with a world-class tech sector, and we have a long history and deep support networks for resettling the immigrants and refugees that have shaped our diversity and our prosperity. We can make this a strategic part of our regional hiring strategy. While others consider closing their borders, we can tap this previously hidden source of talent to offer refugees in limbo a future with us. So I'm thrilled to share that this movement has grown. We're now planning for the next 10 skilled refugees to be settled into roles in Waterloo Region. A number that Talent Beyond Boundaries tells me would set them a year ahead of their Canadian targets. 5 companies have started the process locally, and 8 more are considering. And these are the early adopters I'm thrilled to share with you today. Skywatch, Arctic Wolf, Sanctuary Health Center, ZenReach, and Bonfire. Let's give a hand for these early adopters. Together, we're supporting each other in the hiring process, and we're going to support the cohort of talent that comes to our region. Imagine at True North next year, sitting down to lunch together, partners in this movement and the coworkers we've welcomed, sharing a meal together with so much to celebrate. We want more companies part of this. If you can imagine yourself sitting down at that table with us next year, please come talk to myself or Dana from Talent Beyond Boundaries. We're going to be at the Bonfire booth and the Waterloo Tech Cafe. Together, let's lead the world in hiring displaced tech talent. Thank you.